The Bee Gees were a pop music group formed in 1958. Their lineup consisted of brothers Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb. The trio were especially successful as a popular music act in the late 1960s and early 1970s, and later as prominent performers of the disco music era in the mid to late 1970s. The group sang recognizable three-part tight harmonies. Robin's clear vibrato lead vocals were a hallmark of their earlier hits, while Barry's R&B falsetto became their signature sound during the mid to late 1970s and 1980s. The Bee Gees wrote all of their own hits, as well as writing and producing several major hits for other artists. The Bee Gees are widely referred to by many critics, media outlets and fellow artists as the kings of disco.
Años de carrera y siguen aquí parados y muy bien parados. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
This is from Mexico, and my first question is, I was reading, everything they've written about you lately, and it's amazing. It's 35 years, and I mean, there's not many groups from the rock era that are still here, and as well as you're doing. It's amazing. I mean, when I was reading the amount of songs, the amount of records you've sold, what is the secret? I mean, it's 35 years after New Millennium, and Bee Gees is still here.
I don't think we have it. I don't think there is a secret. No? I just think
there is, but I'm keeping it.
Yes.
No wonder I never
It's
knew.
really corny, but we love music, and that's really it. There isn't any real trick to it. We've always loved music, and we'll go on presenting music no matter how old we get. So at this age is a good age for us. We're in our prime, as we like to put it.
We see ourselves like actors, like Richard Dreyfuss or Michael Caine. They just
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins. Got the word right out of my gusset. Yeah, it's something that we just we keep going. We think we like to get better as we get further down the line. We just want to keep going.
We're learning all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great, but if we're
So you don't believe us then?
No, okay. Obviously, there's a
Cut the other end.
people adore music, but there's a special blend. That's why.
Desperation.
Desperation, need. That's why so many people have recorded and done remakes of your songs and have extraordinary hits with your music. I mean, there's something special in the Bee Gees that nobody else has. The lyrics, the way you write, the way you, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we think you're right, but we couldn't tell you what that is. No, it's true. We think you're right because it's three brothers, and we have certain insights with regard to our music that other people don't have with regard to our music. It's just you can't pick what it is, but we sort of know what it is, and we like to come up with ideas that move us. If the idea moves us, we know we're going somewhere with it. And we don't work to actually make other people happy. We work to make ourselves happy.
This is where I came in. I mean, the title is very self-descriptive, but it's so refreshing, it's so new, but it's yet so you, so back to the roots. What does this album represent?
I think this album does. It represents a cycle of decades of all the music that we've heard or been influenced by and brought up on. And now it's all in decades, and it's all been put together on an album. And the thing about doing this album is that we also recorded it like we did during that time of the late 60s and so forth in England. And it was very acoustic. It was very natural sounding and not overproduced and a lot of things happening.
Yeah, but we also cut songs individually.
Yeah, I know, right? Each one went off.
Yeah.
Right, you wrote like 4
We like to
songs,
approach,
Tell me the process. How did you decide, okay, this is what we're going to do,
having made as many albums as we've made, we needed that. How do we go into a new album? We can't just do the same, we can't use the same feelings and the same attitude and even the same room. Let's the three of us get some self-expression. Let's each of us do something individually and then do 4 songs together. And that will give us a refreshing, a new sort of feeling. So you're always looking for that every album.
You see, the Volkswagen van you had at the beginning, and
right.
You see the portrait of your mom, and it's like all going back to the roots. How important is simplicity? How important
Very
is
important.
It's very important. Less is sometimes a lot more. So it's, well, we've worked with different people over the years, even different producers on the last album. We had 6 different producers. So this one, we know that we've learned a lot. And we're being producers ourselves.
That's the nice thing, we produced this album.
Yeah, and we knew what we wanted. We knew what because we already knew what we were doing.
Knew that
we were getting weary of other people telling us what they wanted.
Yeah.
So.
And we really knew all the time. We just needed reassuring. And making this album was part of that adventure too. So it showed in each other's individual work. So that's why it's so diverse, because when we came together, not one of us knew what the other ones were doing.
But also our fans get a feel now for each brother. They get a feel for what each brother does and the character of each brother, personality. And we've never done that before. So it sort of worked in different ways.
So you sat down, you had, I don't know, over 25, 30 songs, whatever.
No.
How do you narrow it down to 14, or how did it happen?
Well, we sort of all sat down and got ideas. A bunch of us actually got a bunch of ideas that Robin took an idea from, or if I would take an idea
just had
from.
ideas, yeah.
But then ended up either rewriting them or doing something different. And we just, I think being that left alone for that time, and we didn't have any limit on anything. You know,
No,
well, you're only allowed
nobody
a month.
looking over your shoulder all the time.
You know, and just create, just do what you wanted to do. You know, and we already knew we were doing everything together with all the other stuff. So it was no like we were all running off doing solo stuff.
No. But we were curious. What would each of us do if we had our own way? You know, and it's worked out for us. It's worked out in the way you said. It's everything on the album is different.
Now tell me something.
Okay.
35 years together.
Right.
I almost fell.
So you know, it's
35 years together. Ups and
Oh,
downs,
actually, yeah.
non-speaking terms during the Odessa album. I mean,
Right, that's true.
how do you manage to keep on flowing, respecting each other's individuality, and still be a whole?
You see, that's such an hard question to
I have
answer.
no idea.
Because we're brothers.
There's no technical kind of answer or cut and dry answer to that, except that we just enjoy what we do. We just have fun, and some things are more fun than others, and if it's not fun, we don't do it, we'll do something else. And the whole key to what we do is to really enjoy or get off on what we're doing at that particular moment.
We've learned not to bicker anymore. We don't argue with each other anymore.
We love doing what we love to do.
What would you say is the best and worst aspect of each one of you? Like, when Barry does this, it drives me nuts.
No, there's none of that. There's
No,
we're not going there.
But there really isn't any of that. It's just that we don't get personal about each other anymore. It's not when we're writing, it's not a personal
We
thing.
feel personal, but we don't.
Yeah.
You know, we don't feel those ways. We don't think about what's bad or good about each other.
Yeah, those personal things don't come into our music and the way we write. It's just not. We do have separate personal lives. That we do have. But when we're writing and working together, it's about having fun. It's about enjoying, getting a buzz going. And
There's no such thing as negativity. We just leave that out.
Yeah, we've been asked before, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to us? And we thought, well, who wants to hear that?
Piano.
And we've got to recycle it. You know,
The first thing that happened was a piano falling on us. That
In
was
Brooklyn, second floor.
It did?
Yeah, grand piano.
It never made the papers.
It changed us forever.
Yeah, trapped for 5 days under a piano. It was terrible.
Grand piano.
Nice.
Yeah, and the fire brigade
No,
wouldn't.
you don't believe us.
The fire brigade wouldn't
We
come.
tell you our worst moment and no one believes
We
us.
got the fire brigade, but they said...
That's why we never
We
answer
rang
that
the
question.
fire brigade and they said...
out of there. Get them out.
He said, we ran the fire brigade and they said, is there a fire? And we said, no, well,
There
we're
will
not
be.
coming. They said.
Yeah.
So
So that was another day.
Cut the G string.
So we did a very clever thing. We set fire to the building and the fire brigade came. We then got us promoted to the piano.
Yeah.
No, it was horrendous.
there you have it.
Horrendous
The
incident.
best moment?
We've all changed a lot.
With the fire engine turning up.
We're all about a foot shorter than we used to be.
Yes, but other than that, we've learned to
Probably
live
the
with it.
worst moment was obviously losing our brother Andy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was probably the low that we've had. And
But people ask us that, that's the only thing.
yeah,
What's the worst thing?
that
losing our brother.
that obviously is the worst thing.
Are you at peace with that?
I don't think we'll ever be at peace with that. It was our kid brother. I mean, to lose your kid brother is a devastating thing, and especially for our parents. So we had to watch our parents suffering in a way that we couldn't understand, and that is to lose your youngest son, the youngest child. It was pretty intense.
But on the other side too, we've come to believe that he's with us. You know, so we know and Dad's with him now, so we know he's looked after, and we believe that he's always with us. So it's true or not, it's a nice way to believe.
Yeah, you grow a lot inside.
And life's too short, you know, it can be taken away like that.
Yeah.
So it puts different values on things.
Like the grand piano.
Yeah, like the grand piano.
How personal is this album?
Very.
But,
It's
yeah.
all personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Give me a story.
Do you want to go down one more?
What about the sex change?
The songs don't come from stories. Songs come from feelings,
Emotions.
and places, and people. For us to tell you a story about any one of those songs wouldn't be there. It would be increments of relationships, increments of situations.
And I think also being writers is a bit like being an actor. You take on a role and you write about it. And I think other people can actually relate to this when they hear the song. And they all automatically think you might have experienced that emotion that you're singing about. But I think that's the capacity of the writer, being able to create a situation that the listener can relate to. And that is what we do. And this is the same as a writer like Charles Dickens writing books that people can relate to. That is something that you do and have a knack of doing, and we're able to do. Like that dropping things.
Yeah, but I mean, if I don't write,
No,
but if I did, I guess it all comes from the heart.
Yeah.
That's right.
It comes from personal.
You wouldn't be able to give someone a story. You just be able to, all you can say is, well, it just comes from there, and there's no explanation for it.
One thing is for
But
certain,
it is personal.
The situations that we do write about do happen to people, and they are real.
The piano.
The piano.
The piano. The piano. The extra mile.
Saved by its legs.
What was that inspired of?
The extra mile.
The extra mile was
we were running out of gas, wasn't it?
No, the extra mile was written to the Olympic Games.
Yes.
Because we thought we were going to do the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
And then when we found out we weren't doing the Olympic Games, we thought, well, let's keep the song.
They said we couldn't run.
Because we couldn't
They
run.
wouldn't let us run
And you
it.
can't sing and run at the same time. You,
Yeah, that's right. They
And
said
you've
we
always gone the extra mile.
Yeah, this is also a bit of a moral thing there too. Yeah, we've always gone that extra mile in everything we've done.
yeah, see, it's what you read into it.
I've been up all night.
You've been counting all night.
I mean,
haven't
it's
You have
amazing
been up all
the
night.
amount of remakes. I
That's
mean,
surprising
you've
to us
written-
too.
Yeah, you've written things for Diane Warwick, which is, you know, Heartbreaker is
Right,
one
right.
of my favorite
yes,
songs,
yes.
and Diana Ross,
Right.
and
Michael Jackson. Who did you say?
Barbara Streisand,
Barbara
Oh, yeah.
Streisand, Kenny Rogers,
Dolly.
Diana
Dolly.
Ross,
Yeah,
Chain Reaction,
yeah,
Yeah.
and all these remakes from Rod Stewart to NSYNC
yeah.
to Take That. I mean,
We're just as amazed. We're just as amazed by it. But you know what? It keeps us going too. It keeps us alive. Keeps us vibrant. When we see that our material is being used in a very contemporary way, it might be 20 years old, but when we see people using it and treating it in a modernistic way, it really tells us an awful lot about what we've done.
Why the generational appeal, the multi-generational
I can say that
appeal
because
is amazing.
I think a lot of the reasons is because the songs that we've always written have always appealed to young people. We've never written for older people. We've always written for young people. So right from the time we were teenagers ourselves. So that is what we do, and our songs automatically do have an appeal to the young generation.
I think we got stung by the Beatles when we were teenagers, you know. And if you listen to the early Beatles stuff, they were really written for children. You know, Hello Goodbye and Yellow Submarine were basically children's songs. They had legitimate social meanings to them, but they were really children's songs.
Nursery rhyme.
Yeah. And so we were bitten by that at the same time. We thought the only way to go is to be completely imaginative and to think in terms of what a child might think when a child hears your song, and not always older people.
Yeah.
And it still seems to ring true today. People love things that set their imaginations off.
Well, obviously you have a very loyal fan base. I mean, I'm 33. I grew up with
Right.
the
That's okay. That's soundtrack.
the movie, right?
Right.
Saturday Fever.
Yeah.
Right.
And but I mean, I just outside the valet guy, he's like 18, and oh, you're gonna go interview the Bee Gees. I mean,
Yeah, it's
there's
really-
no generational gap when it comes.
It doesn't
you
seem
guys.
to be. There's probably one there, but with the, you know.
Yeah, we left him outside too.
There is probably one we don't talk about.
I wonder. I was thinking this morning at the hotel. Do you authorize all the remakes?
No, we have no control over that.
No,
Absolutely
they,
control.
but usually out of respect, they send it to us before they release them to get it.
Just as they release it.
Just one day before the release, so we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, there must be one that you said, God, they destroyed this song.
You know,
How could they?
as writers-
Please.
Oh, Robbie Williams, I started a joke.
Yeah. That was about
I
it,
think
yeah.
that was pretty willful. I mean, that was somebody willfully trying to destroy one of our songs. And there's no way he can ever say, I just wanted to do a different version, because he didn't do any version at all. So that's the only criticism we have of any covers of our songs. And we don't even know Robbie. He's probably a lovely guy and sort of watches television all the time.
Your favorite that it was like,
Well, it's,
That
that's a
sounds
particular.
better than
That
us.
particular.
Oh, well, no. Our favourite would still be Broken Heart by
Al Green.
By Al
Yeah.
Green,
Yeah, then we were blown away when Elvis did words. You know,
Yeah.
So,
We're always flattered by who's doing the song.
yeah, I mean, as
Yeah,
writers, I mean, you have to. people have done our songs out of respect, not to take the mick. You know, it's been done out of respect. So you can't really turn around and say, oh, you can't release that because it's not a good version or something. You know,
we're always flattered that anyone does them.
We are. We're flattered tremendously. And as writers, I think anybody in our position would be blown away with what's happening with their songs. The older songs, reliving the success they had before.
Yeah.
20 years later, that's an amazing thing.
Islands in the Stream became Ghetto Superstar. And we just thought, well, what's that all about?
Yeah. What are you going to do?
You can't. You can't. No, we liked it.
Yeah.
What's your kids say? I mean,
what do our kids say?
Get out of the way.
Get out of the way. Yeah. Can I borrow the keys to the car?
Give us some money.
what do they think about their music? What, I mean,
I think they're proud of their parents. I think they're proud of their fathers. I think that's true.
When they see them, yeah.
Yeah, but they perceive us as
cool.
mum and dad and does this and dad does that. They don't really see us as other people see us, so it's hard to them.
We're still parents, so it's not. You can't be a BG at home. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
no, I know.
He gets hit with a John Travolta picture.
What do you think of the music today? Because, you know, before groups, artists were so complete like you guys. You produce, you write, you compose, you sing, multi-talented. I mean, these days in the industry, it's like a little bit of, you know, electronic technology, and there you go, bam, she can sing.
Well, no, it's interesting. You should even be interested in all of that stuff because it fascinates us. Because we didn't come from a period where you created a group. Groups were created by the record company or by someone else. Yeah. Eh?
Well, the Monkeys later on.
Apart from the Monkeys. No, we never saw that before. So you had to be a group that grew up being a group from children, you know. And today now it's that they gather people they like. It's like putting a basketball team together, you know. We need an Oriental girl. We need a black guy. So you see a lot of that, and it comes from that American political correctness. You know, we need something to appeal to everybody. So let's put a group together with all different nationalities.
It's marketing, yeah.
It's really marketing now, and you know you have to, you know, wish out all these kids luck because some of them will become really famous. The ones that don't are the ones that concern us. You know,
Yeah.
Because they get exploited and they lose a lot. They don't get paid.
Well, not what the record companies and everybody else gets paid.
Talking about kids, Sacred Trust, which is this album, it was written for the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
Oh, and they loved it.
They loved it.
Their management, unfortunately...
their management nixed it for obviously their own publishing reasons. You know.
They didn't write it, so...
Yeah. Because if you wrote the song, you make money on the publishing.
So that's one of the things today. Most kids are told what to record and not...
There's that too.
They can't have it in their heart to do a song that they really love and they bring it to the board. If the people involved have nothing to do with the song, they can't record it. So
it's a big business.
And it was such a great song that we said, no, we're doing it. You know, so...
But the band loved the song,
Yeah.
which was a bit distressing for us because you can have an artist love the song and not be allowed to record it. You know?
Well, you've been influenced. You were talking about culture. I mean, you were born in England. You spent a few
Well, we've
years
lived in three
Australia,
cultures.
then in the United States, Asian influences, American English, Latin. I hear Latin.
Yes.
And,
Yes. Well, we grew up in three cultures. We grew up in England. We grew up in Australia for at least 9 years. We were in Australia, and so that was the whole Asian influence. You know, we traveled.
Nice squeak back there.
Like my squeak. We did an enormous amount of traveling as children. Enormous amount of traveling. We were in the pyramids. We were in India. So those experiences really affected us. You know, in a creative way. You know, children don't get to see those places as children. Very few.
Captain's cabin.
Yes. What? One home.
Yeah.
is that good?
It's wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
As I say, once again, as writers, you get flattered when people want to do your songs. Particularly
That is a nice record.
Yeah.
And but I do feel there's a lot more to your music.
Oh, there certainly
It
is.
depends, yeah, in different songs there is, yes.
For instance, Loose Talk Cost Lives is extremely Latin on this album. And I'd love to hear Julio do it. I'd love to hear someone do it that's... Yeah. Because I wrote it with him in mind.
Really?
Yeah.
See, you don't tell me those stories.
You didn't ask.
No, we've written loads of songs with Julio in mind. It's just Julio doesn't know about it.
Well,
Song with Julio in mind?
yeah, of course. Well, I know Julio quite well, so he sort of rubbed off on me at some point.
Beg your pardon?
I wouldn't make that comment.
See, I didn't know that.
We're all friends and neighbours.
Didn't happen all that.
Yeah.
Now, in this first single, you were talking about the Beatles. There is part of the Beatles in that
Yes,
song.
of course there is.
Yeah.
Well, the Beatles weren't just a group. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Beatles are tremendous. There's no doubt about it. The Beatles are a tremendous influence in our music and have been in most of our lives. They were the first group that actually influenced, but they were a group writing their own songs, and innovative and experimental, and that really inspired us. So they had a real big impact when we were teenagers on the music that we did. So there's absolutely no doubt about it.
And the guitar?
Well, there's Lennon's guitar on it, yeah, which I used, which is the Gibson Monarch, which is one of his older ones I got for my 21st birthday. So that's...
I heard the story,
yeah.
he dozed off and he just sort of took the guitar off and
You
Yeah,
stole it,
well,
yeah.
sort of.
quietly sort of sneaked out.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It was a John Lennon song.
Yes, it was one of the used on the If I Fell days and the acoustic ballad like This Boy and all that sort of stuff. Like the Hard Day's Night period.
This is a very, very difficult question, I think.
Uh-oh.
Because, as you said, it's like picking out a baby out of grape. Who's your favorite? But if you had to pick one song out of 35 years, I know this is...
Well, we all have our favourites. There's
Yeah, it's a hard
no
one,
question about that.
We can't just narrow it down to one, though. Very hard.
One.
So
can't
hard.
do it.
A lot of songs that we like weren't actually singles. Some of our favourite songs are on albums that no one's really listened to, or don't remember. I mean, I guess I love to love somebody. I think Robin probably loves I Started a Joke because it came from his heart. So we all have the songs that come
And I
from our
love
heart.
My Old Man's a
The
Dustman.
songs that we did together, I feel like Too Much Heaven.
Too Much Heaven's a great song.
Yeah, great song.
You love
Yeah.
what?
Too much Heaven.
You see, also some of the songs, the sessions, how they were born and how they were done, how they finished also affects how you feel about
Yeah.
it. So each one has its own story. So there's so many
I
of
like
them.
other songs that we wrote for other people, like Woman in Love, Barbara Streisand, and
See?
Heartbreaker.
See, there's not just
React.
one.
So there's
Why
good
did you have to be a...
Yeah.
Heartbreaker.
Yeah,
Heartbreaker?
An Heartbreak.
I think
Icebreaker.
she was trying to cue us there for something.
Yeah.
Went down like a ton of bricks, didn't it?
So tell me something.
Tell me a tale.
Tell me a tale. Tell me a story. Just I mean, to finish up, this is very impressive deja vu Technicolor coat. I mean, it.
Technicolor dream.
Technicolor dream.
Deja vu's Technicolor coat.
Technicolor trench coat.
That, yeah, that was what was that?
Technicolor dream coat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we digress.
But
Carry
each
on.
one is like very representative, like of a certain period of
Yes.
time in music.
Yeah.
That was the whole idea.
Where would you position like each?
Well, I think Technicolor Dreams is definitely the 1930s. Noel Coward and old music hall of those days.
Yes.
And how would you?
Well, I think Maurice
many-
reminds me of the Beach Boys.
Yeah, walking on air.
You've got to really oil these chairs.
That's all
Yeah,
chairs,
that was
you.
more of a summary thing. I like, you know, I wanted
this
to
is
do.
where I came in. There's no question that Beatles.
I think She Keeps On Coming is in a way. It's
Yeah,
sort of the
I drive my
60s.
car.
Yeah, which I love. So,
And Wedding Days represented of early Bee Gees.
Mm-hmm.
They already used that song, right?
Yeah, and some TV thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Providence.
Providence, yeah.
So each one has its own sort of sound, and the way it was recorded was a bit different than from the other times. But mostly of what we did here was really record more or less what we used to do when we were in the late 60s, and keep it simple and, you know, just had fun doing it and not too many electronic things going on. You know.
Okay, I can't leave without two questions. One is, obviously this question makes you sick. Saturday Night Fever, but...
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make us sick.
I don't know where you got that from. No, it doesn't make us. We're very proud of Fever, but go on.
I mean,
I think you know what it is that we've been asked about it so many times. We don't know how to answer the question
do
anymore.
you like the music?
But ask the question.
Love the music.
I mean,
They have a life of their own.
That was a tough question.
Very proud of this song.
That's an easy question. We love the music.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's living in that syndrome is difficult, you know, because people tend to not want to forget what you did, and so it's sort of it can blur everything else you're doing, and so that's the only reason that we would go. Oh.
It really has a life of its own now.
Well, when you have a new album out, you sort of want to focus on that. Every artist feels the same way. Doesn't matter what success has been behind you.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
So, touring.
Mm-hmm.
If we're in Mexico, do you plan on touring?
Well, if we literally do a world tour, it will be a world tour if we do a tour. Instead of doing it half-heartedly or one night here and there, it'll be a full thrust. And of course Mexico will be involved in that.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, no question. A lot of people in Mexico.
Okay.
Indeed there are.
Yeah,
Hi, a lot of people there in Mexico.
You in particular.
You there, sitting there, scratching your ball. I mean, yeah. How dare you? How dare you?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, love.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We really hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Look forward to that.
Y viva los Bee Gees.
No,
Viva los Bee Gees. Do you speak Spanish?
not now.
I mean, in
Viva,
Miami, you have to speak
viva
Spanish.
la Bee Gees.
Viva los Bee Gees.
You lost BG.
No entiende.
No entiende.
Or has anyone seen my BG, which I
Yeah.
think is loosely translation.
Where is my Oscar?
No tenemos a ver un especial. Regresamos con más.
Born on the Isle of Man to English parents, the Gibb brothers lived in Chorlton, Manchester, England until the late 1950s. There, in 1955, they formed the skiffle rock and roll group the Rattlesnakes. The family then moved to Redcliffe, in the Moreton Bay region, Queensland, Australia, and then to Crib Island. After achieving their first chart success in Australia as the Bee Gees with Spicks and Specks, their 12th single, they returned to the UK in January 1967, when producer Robert Stigwood began promoting them to a worldwide audience. The Bee Gees have sold over 120 million records worldwide, making them one of the world's best-selling artists of all time. Several sources, including Billboard, list the sales figures as high as 220 million. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997. The presenter of the award to Britain's first family of harmony was Brian Wilson, historical frontman of the Beach Boys, another family act featuring three harmonizing brothers. The Bee Gees Hall of Fame citation says, only Elvis Presley, the Beatles, Michael Jackson, Garth Brooks and Paul McCartney have outsold the Bee Gees. The Bee Gees are the third most successful band in Billboard charts history after the Beatles and the Supremes. Following Maurice's death in January 2003 at the age of 53, Barry and Robin retired the group's name after 45 years of activity. In 2009, Robin announced that he and Barry had agreed the Bee Gees would reform and perform again. Robin died in May 2012, aged 62, after a prolonged struggle with cancer and other health problems, leaving Barry as the only surviving member of the group. Born on the Isle of Man during the 1940s, the Gibb brothers moved to their father Hugh Gibb's hometown of Chorlton-cum-Hardy, Manchester, England in 1955. They formed a skiffle, rock and roll group, the Rattlesnakes, which consisted of Barry on guitar and vocals, Robin and Maurice on vocals and friends Paul Frost on drums and Kenny Horrocks on tea-chest bass. In December 1957, the boys began to sing in harmony. The story is told that they were going to lip-sync to a record in the local Gaumont cinema, as other children had done on previous weeks, but as they were running to the theater, the fragile shellac 7/8 RPM record broke. The brothers had to sing live and received such a positive response from the audience that they decided to pursue a singing career. In May 1958, the Rattlesnakes were disbanded when Frost and Horrocks left, so the Gibb brothers then formed Wee Johnny Hayes and the Blue Cats, with Barry as Johnny Hayes. In August 1958, the Gibb family, including older sister Leslie and infant brother Andy, emigrated to Redcliffe, just northeast of Brisbane in Queensland, Australia. The young brothers began performing to raise pocket money. They were introduced to Brisbane radio presenter jockey Bill Gates by Speedway promoter and driver Bill Good, who had hired the brothers to entertain the crowd at the Redcliffe Speedway in 1960. The crowd at the Speedway would throw money onto the track for the boys, who generally performed during the interval of meetings, usually on the back of a truck that drove around the track, and, in a deal with Good, any money they collected from the crowd they were allowed to keep. Gates renamed them the Bee Gees, later changed to Bee Gees, after his, Good's and Barry Gibb's initials. The name was not specifically a reference to Brothers Gibb, despite popular belief. By 1960, the Bee Gees were featured on television shows, including their performance of Time Is Passing By. In the next few years they began working regularly at resorts on the Queensland coast. For his songwriting, Berry sparked the interest of Australian star Colonel Joy, who helped them get a recording deal in 1963 with Festival Records subsidiary Leadon Records, under the name Bee Gees. The three released 2 or 3 singles a year, while Berry supplied additional songs to other Australian artists. In 1962, the Bee Gees were chosen as the supporting act for Chubby Checker's concert at the Sydney Stadium. From 1963 to 1966, the Gibb family lived at 171 Bunurong Road, Maroubra, in Sydney. Just prior to his death, Robin Gibb recorded the song, Sydney, about the brothers' experience of living in that city. It was released on his posthumous album 50 St. Catherine's Drive. The house was demolished in 2016. The band's involvement in the film did not begin until post-production. As John Travolta asserted, the Bee Gees weren't even involved in the movie in the beginning. I was dancing to Stevie Wonder and Boz Scaggs. Producer Robert Stigwood commissioned the Bee Gees to create the songs for the film. The brothers wrote the songs, virtually in a single weekend, at Chateau d'Hérouville studio in France. Berry Gibb remembered the reaction when Stigwood and music supervisor Bill Oakes arrived and listened to the demos. They flipped out and said these will be great. We still had no concept of the movie, except some kind of rough script that they'd brought with them. You've got to remember, we were fairly dead in the water at that point, 1975, somewhere in that zone the Bee Gees sound was basically tired. We needed something new. We hadn't had a hit record in about 3 years. So we felt, oh geez, that's it. That's our lifespan, like most groups in the late 60s. So, we had to find something. We didn't know what was going to happen. Bill Oakes, who supervised the soundtrack, asserts that Saturday Night Fever did not begin the disco craze but rather prolonged it. Disco had run its course. These days, Fever is credited with kicking off the whole disco thing. It really didn't. Truth is, it breathed new life into a genre that was actually dying. 3 Bee Gees singles: How Deep Is Your Love, US number 1, UK number 3, Stayin' Alive, US number 1, UK number 4, and Night Fever, US number 1, UK number 1, charted high in many countries around the world, launching the most popular period of the disco era. They also penned the song, If I Can't Have You, which became a US number 1 hit for Yvonne Elliman, while the Bee Gees' own version was the B-side of Stayin' Alive. Such was the popularity of Saturday Night Fever that two different versions of the song, More Than a Woman, received airplay, one by the Bee Gees, which was relegated to an album track, and another by Tavares, which was the hit. During a 9-month period beginning in the Christmas season of 1977, 7 songs written by the brothers held the #1 position on the U.S. charts for 27 of 37 consecutive weeks, 3 of their own releases, 2 for brother Andy Gibb, the Yvonne Elliman single, and Grease, performed by Frankie Valli. Fueled by the film's success, the soundtrack broke multiple industry records, becoming the highest-selling album in recording history to that point. With more than 40 million copies sold, Saturday Night Fever is among music's top 5 best-selling soundtrack albums. As of 2010, it is calculated as the 4th highest-selling album worldwide. In March 1978, the Bee Gees held the top 2 positions on the U.S. charts with Night Fever and Stayin' Alive, the first time this had happened since the Beatles. On the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 chart for the 25th of March 1978, 5 songs written by the Gibbs were in the U.S. top 10 at the same time: Night Fever, Stayin' Alive, If I Can't Have You, Emotion, and Love Is Thicker Than Water. Such chart dominance had not been seen since April 1964, when the Beatles had all 5 of the top 5 American singles. Barry Gibb became the only songwriter to have 4 consecutive #1 hits in the U.S., breaking the John Lennon and Paul McCartney 1964 record. These songs were Stayin' Alive, Love Is Thicker Than Water, Night Fever, and If I Can't Have You. The Bee Gees won 5 Grammy Awards for Saturday Night Fever over 2 years: Album of the Year, Producer of the Year, with Alfie Galudin and Carl Richardson, 2 awards for Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals, one in 1978 for How Deep Is Your Love, and one in 1979 for Stayin' Alive, and Best Vocal Arrangement for 2 or more voices for Stayin' Alive. During this era, Barry and Robin also wrote Emotion for an Old Friend, Australian vocalist Samantha Sang, who made it a top 10 hit, with the Bee Gees singing backing vocals. Barry also wrote the title song to the film version of the Broadway musical Grease for Frankie Valli to perform, which went to #1. The Bee Gees also co-starred with Peter Frampton in Robert Stigwood's film Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, 1978, loosely inspired by the classic 1967 album by the Beatles. The movie had been heavily promoted prior to release and was expected to enjoy great commercial success. However, it was savaged by film critics as a disjointed mess and ignored by the public. Though some of its tracks charted, the soundtrack too was a high-profile flop. The single, Oh, Darling, credited to Robin Gibb, reached number 15 in the U.S. The Bee Gees' follow-up to Saturday Night Fever was the Spirits Having Flown album. It yielded 3 more hits: Too Much Heaven, US #1, UK #3, Tragedy, US #1, UK #1, and Love You Inside Out, US #1, UK #13, 32. This gave the act 6 consecutive #1 singles in the U.S. within a year and a half, equaling the Beatles and surpassed only by Whitney Houston. In January 1979, the Bee Gees performed Too Much Heaven as their contribution to the Music for UNICEF concert at the United Nations General Assembly. During the summer of 1979, the Bee Gees embarked on their largest concert tour covering the U.S. and Canada. The Spirits Having Flown tour capitalized on Bee Gees' fever that was sweeping the nation, with sold-out concerts in 38 cities. The Bee Gees produced a video for the title track, Too Much Heaven, directed by Miami-based filmmaker Martin Pitts and produced by Charles Allen. With this video, Pitts and Allen began a long association with the brothers. The Bee Gees even had a country hit in 1979 with Rest Your Love on Me, the flip side of their pop hit Too Much Heaven, which made the top 40 on the country charts. The Bee Gees' overwhelming success rose and fell with the disco bubble. By the end of 1979, disco was rapidly declining in popularity, and the backlash against disco put the Bee Gees' American career in a tailspin. Radio stations around the U.S. began promoting Bee Gee free weekends. Following their remarkable run from 1975 to 1979, the act would have only one more top 10 single in the US, and that would not come until the single, One, reached number 7 in 1989. Barry Gibb considered the success of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack both a blessing and a curse.
Okay, you can go now. Hello, everybody. Hi, thanks for coming. Okay, this is the photo opportunity time. Oh, this is photo op. Yes. Still jet lagging a bit. Thank you. Is this as good as your room? Yeah, it's all strangers. Filthy, all strangers. Yeah. Leading off. What's happening? It's okay. Anyway, want to come up here? Pardon? Want to come up here? Well, you got a little one. We got one. I can shoot with it. All right, then, I'm fine. Good. Especially looking at the camera, sorry. Look not.
We couldn't get you all close together.
Yeah, we'll get, we really wanted to stand in front.
All right. Oh, really? You just didn't read your instructions.
Yeah.
We are much
Yeah. And actually, we've got much more on the other end. Oh,
Can you all just lean towards me? Just your head. Right. That's good.
You can leave back now.
all right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. The same success. And a lot of the younger groups and bands, from Boyzone to Steps and people like that, particularly in Europe, covered a lot of the songs. And it's a great feeling for any songwriter to have a song, particularly like Words, which was a big hit for Boyzone. It was in '68 that was a hit. So when you look at the longevity of the songs and they come back again and do the same success, it's a great feeling. And I think we're very proud. We're proud of all our songs. So to see them come back and have another go at success is a great feeling for us.
Do you ever ask what hope bands will in fact do the song story? I'm thinking of bands like 911.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did More Than a Woman, but we never actually, sorry, go ahead, we never really asked these people to do our songs. They just do them, and that's what knocks us out, you know, that people will actually go out of their way to find or listen to some of our songs to see if there's something worthy of recording. So, you know, no, we never chase people to do our songs. We did a long time ago. We used to.
I mean, they chase us, but not to our song. Oh, you're on.
I don't know the answer to that.
Follow-up to that question, are there any of your songs that you would consider sacred that you wouldn't let other bands come in?
No, the only it's the only thing we don't like is we've had requests for people who want to remix the original Staying on Deck or You Should Be Dancing or something like that, which we've refused. Because
well, we would never say no to. We don't have a song that we wouldn't have anybody that wants to do it and to express it in their own way.
Or to remix the originals, no, we won't allow that.
I mean, we had the Ghetto Superstar by Pras Michael, which was Islands in the Stream, and because they were expressing in their way, we thought that was just as flattering.
Yes.
Please get a microphone.
You guys have been in the charts since the '60s, stuck together all the way to now. Have you got any secrets to pass on?
Yes, sheep cell injections.
There's a lot of bands that don't manage to stick together, you know, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I think it's brothers, perhaps, is the real, if it's a secret, if you're family. I don't think a group like us could really stay together as long as we have, without being brothers. I think it's very important.
And we all owe each other money.
Yeah, we all know each other.
I think it's the songs too. It's the songs that have kept the longevity going.
Yeah, we just love what we do. You know, how can you not? I mean, we've made music all our lives. It hasn't, you know, it hasn't all been as good as we wanted it to be, but we've done it all our lives, and we love doing it. Period.
Yeah, I think it's because we've been sort of bonded together by bondage, and they're unified in the same goals. You know, according to one of your papers, much like the craze.
Yes, so we've read. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're joking there, which is good. I mean, do you think you can ever have too much money?
No.
No. Do you know of anybody who does? Actually, we're just very fortunate that to have the success and to do what we've been doing for so long. We feel very blessed about it.
It's not about money.
It's something what we did when we were kids. We just wanted to be liked and our music liked. We never thought about how much money you could earn from it.
No one told us we could make any money out of it. We just wanted to play.
We were quite surprised when we found out you could.
Yes, sir.
John Bridges, Ice TV. Youth of today, off the rails. Music of today, just noise. Your views?
I'm sorry.
Have you been to the bar?
Why not? No, sorry, could you hit us with that again? Is that?
Yes. Youth of today, off the rails. Music of today, just noise.
Oh, it's a riddle, isn't it?
Oh, I see. It's a
your
views.
Yay.
Oh, it's a preamble. Music of today, did you say off the rails?
No, just noise. Youth off the rails.
Youth off the rails. Well, I don't think that's true. I think there's good and bad in all kids. And good. They don't play their songs to you, you know, because you're dad, you know. And I always say to them, you know, let me hear one of the songs, you know, and they don't play it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The microphone is coming.
One Night Only has done a job.
You got a high voice.
That was brilliant.
Can you do it again?
You couldn't have planned that.
You can call it Sue if you like.
No, not possible.
One Night Only, I believe, has done better in New Zealand than any other country in the world. What do you think that does? What do you think that says about New Zealand audiences?
Well, obviously it's a wonderful thing. We're very, very knocked out that the album has done what it has done. And we all, don't forget, this is the area of the world where we grew up. We grew up in Australia, and we grew up with the same kind of mentality as the mayoress described. Wonderful open people, wonderful weather. This is our part of the world. This is the place of our childhood.
Is that part of the reason why?
I think psychologically it might be. You know.
In fact, one of the reasons we lived to move to Miami was because it reminded us of Australia.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Of this part of the world.
And this part of the world, because we live on the sea and all that, which we did when we lived in Australia. So it reminded us very much of that, and the weather and everything.
We're very Pacific.
Is that part of the reason why you picked or chosen to play in Auckland?
To be specific or Pacific, yes. Yes.
The Pacific Ocean. Yes. Be specific.
So if it's not money, why is it then you're still going?
It's too long. It's been too long since we've been to New Zealand. We wanted to come back. We wanted to play Auckland. And last time I think was 74.
Christchurch, yes.
So since then I've got a couple of grey beards here, but it's something that we always planned to do. We always wanted to come back and play this part of the world, and New Zealand was definitely part of it.
It's a series of one shows, you know, which is one night only, and we're trying to do that in the places that are really important to us emotionally, anywhere in the world, you know. We just haven't done Russia yet.
Well, the beauty of it is that we get to spend a lot more time in each place we go to, rather than seeing the hotel, the airport, the gig, the hotel, the airport.
Yeah.
This time we get a chance to see the culture, absorb the history of the places we go to. And for instance, recently we were in Johannesburg. We'd never played South Africa before, and that was a wonderful experience. But to come back to this part of the world, it's very much like